See, I already muted. See, but you'll be able to, you'll be able to hear them.
But they won't see me with.
We'll ask Mr. Anthony to really lead us in prayer. God in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us our trespasses, we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into today, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody to the city council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll for us, please?
Maxine Miller. Here. Joe St. Columbia. Latoya Harris. Monica Davis. Don Etherly.
Yes.
Miller. We have 5 present.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So, we got one guest, Miss Kim from the King Biscuit Blues Festival.
And Mr. Mayor, there should be a second guest, Miss Mary Stevens. Mr. Kyle Miller called and said that was left off, and she's here.
Yes, sir.
Hello, how are you today? Come to present the event permit for King Biscuit Blues Festival slated for October the 4th through the 7th of 2023. That is Wednesday through Sunday, with setup starting on Thursday, September the 28th. And cleanup is starting immediately following the festival, with the road slooping and everything being completed on Monday. Possibly Tuesday, considering that Monday is a holiday. The streets closing, we're proposing to begin on Tuesday, October the 3rd, starting in the 100 block of Cherry Street. Tickets, merchandise, operations are all located at 105 Missouri Street in the Hunt Education Building. Hours of operation, the festival grounds themselves, aside from Wednesday, open at 10 a.m. with vending starting around 11. On Wednesday, it's our late day, so we will not start anything until 5 p.m. However, the vendors will be open for lunch for those of you who wish to attend that. Thursday, our main stage will open around noon. Our headliner, Ruthie Foster, will go on around 8:30 that afternoon. The Delta Cultural Center will have the front porch stage going from 1 until 3 in the Miller Annex. On Friday is when things really start to pick up just a little bit more. 9 a.m. in the Courtyard Square will be the Bit of Blues stage and the children's area with young performers. Headlining that will be the Pine Top Perkins Boogie Woogie Workshop. And they will begin at 11:30. Also on Friday morning, we will have the Blues Bloodies and Biscuit bar. It's a $10 charge, and it takes place under the VIP tent, but no wristband is required. Front porch will be back going that day at noon, starting with Mary Lane and finishing out with Jimmy Burns. The Lockwood Stackhouse stage will also start on noon that day, beginning with Robert Hill and finishing up with the headliner Jimbo Mathis. Main stage will kick off that day at 12, and we'll finish up with headliner Nick Moss Band beginning at 8:45. Your Cedale Davis stage that day will start at 2 p.m., beginning with Rachel Ammons, ending with Sonny Green. He will go on about 8 o'clock. Saturday, for the final day of the festival, at 7:30 a.m. begins the Flower Power 5K run. In addition to the run, there is also the Tour de Delta bike ride. The registration is at 8 a.m. or check in. The ride starts at 9. Harvey Q is also will be providing lunches for those riders. So that is part of your registration. The Blues Symposium in the Malco Theater will be 1 at 10, and the next session is at 11. Lockwood Stackhouse stage will start at noon with Aberdeen Slim and finish off with John Primer going on at 7. The main stage will begin at noon with the Backbone Blues Band and finish out with Tab Benoit and the Dirty Dozen Brass Band. They will begin around 8:40. The Cedale Davis stage kicks off at 1 o'clock with Bill Abel, and we'll finish up with Tia Carroll starting at 8. And also on Saturday, we will have our gospel stage in the Malco Theater. Headlining that particular stage is Bob Holloway and the Southern Sons from Memphis, Tennessee. The changes that you may see compared to different years, there will not be a blues barbecue contest this year, and there are no blues bucks. Aside from that, just about everything is staying the same. We do still have more upcoming meetings with security, our residents from both Cherry Street and Walnut Street, along with businesses among those areas. I was just speaking with Miss Verna Boyd. She's had some trouble in the past with barricades on Walnut Street. I've listened to her concerns. I really feel that we'll be able to accommodate that. I would have to get back with you for certain. I'm not at liberty to make those final decisions, but I do not see any reason why we can't accommodate her this year.
Y'all have any questions? Ms. Boyd is here.
Yes.
And that's been an issue for her in the past, and every time that, we grant the permit after her lots and stuff are blocked off. And
You are absolutely correct.
so I want to make sure that her concerns are heard and they're dealt with properly. This year, if this year, when the body approves the permit, if it's not done, I'll be down there to make sure, to assist, to make sure that her property is not blocked off, because everybody at this time is doing Blueface, is trying to make money. want to use their property. I mean,
Absolutely.
everybody in this community on the same page. Everybody's trying to make a dollar to survive. So to me, I mean, if the body has any questions,
All the stages are free.
Except for the main
the
stage,
main
correct?
stage. So all the stages.
The
you mentioned,
stages, the vendors, access to all of that is free of charge,
Free,
except for
open
the
to the
Sonny
public.
Boy Williamson stage. And it is free on Wednesday night.
and then they gotta pay for the food and stuff they want. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they know that you're saying free. You're saying free.
Yeah, free
Yeah.
admission.
Okay, let me know. Post it.
Trying to actually visualize. Boyd or, Amy, if you could, where exactly is that? I'm just
It's
trying to-
Walnut Street, the entire street of Walnut. In the past, I believe in 2019 was the last one, but it's usually full with a barbecue contest.
Uh-huh.
All we have remaining now is the C. Dale Davis stage and the Lockwood Stackhouse stage,
Okay.
which is on the corner of between the 200 and 300 block of Walnut, and then the other stage is between the 300 and 400 block.
Okay.
It seems to me that all that Ms. Boyd really wants is those barricades pushed up against the opposite side of the street to open the street up more to provide access for vehicles.
From 300 block to 100 block of Walnut Street in the facing east coming down York Street. And no little, whatever you call them, things that they be blocking it off.
The barricades, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So that's what we had been requesting for years. Money Jordan has been, he wasn't blocking them, but I got pictures.
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Everything that she lied, she did lie.
Well, yes, ma'am, I'd be happy to work with you. You know that.
I understand. So yeah, Miller, it's the 300 block all the way to 100 block of Walnut Street. Where actually blow back, 'cause that's how it was at the time. And we had different vendors, church people,
Mhm, right,
sorority on Walnut Street, you know, trying to make a little money too.
okay,
And so we just brought it back like it used to be.
okay. So those intersections, that's Missouri,
Like it
and
was.
Phillips, yeah, what's that?
So
Is that Ryder, the next one, between 200 and 300? Is that Ryder or
that's.
Or York. S M?
No,
M.
And then, what's the next one?
York,
Next year was Philip.
It's, no, Phillips is the other one,
York.
York.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to picture them. Okay.
36.
Mr. Mayor. I move that we approve the permit application of King Biscuit Blues Festival.
Mr. St. Columbia moves to approve the King Biscuit 36th Annual Blues Festival.
I said.
Mr. Miller seconds the motion. Any discussion?
One question. Page 2 of the permit, Ms. Liston says, please see attached on the detailed event description.
Mhm.
It's not attached to our copies. Do you have? the
I do.
That your email, it was too lengthy to attach tonight, but.
Have a copy you can look
I've
at.
got some copies too.
Okay. I just wanted to see what the full permit looks like.
Aside from taking out barbecue and blues bucks, it pretty much reads as it has every other year.
This is the same application.
Descriptions for the zones, yes, sir.
Okay. I'd recognize it. You didn't have your text, so I don't know what it was. And I didn't see it in my email, I'm trying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No more discussion. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Before you go tomorrow, make sure that the property is not blocked.
Absolutely.
Roll call.
Maxine Miller,
Yes.
Latoya Harris,
Yes.
Mr. St. Columbia,
Yes.
Mr. Etherly,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Vote is 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Mrs. Stevens, you can come to the podium. After Mrs. Stevens come, we got some department heads that are here. We're gonna hear from the fire department after Mrs. Stevens.
Okay, so again, you guys know why I'm here. I am still here trying to get an approval to get my floor fixed. So, I never heard anything about the engineer person that's supposed to have been come out. No one never contacted me and said anything. I think last week when they did that bad rain, where Mr. Valley James said, the area where it floods at. So I wrote those areas where he said floods. I wrote First Baptist. I wrote Ashler, Washington, and Sam Street. So where he's saying is flooding, those are potholes. Those are potholes filled with water. The condition I'm talking about is between my building and Jackson House. That road continually to flood. And it's not getting any better. I don't care who, whatever you guys send out, that road is not getting any better. And you guys keep telling me that, hey, I'm gonna reach out to you about engineering and this, that. No one, I hadn't got a call from nobody. The only thing I have seen done was them put my fence back up. The grass still tall. That, what is that? The fire hydrant still leaks. So, I mean, it's the problem just because, I mean, I don't know what more you guys want me to do. All I'm asking is for my floor to be fixed because that problem is the city's, that problem comes from the city. That's not my ditch. And I've been complaining and complaining and complaining, and now I'm out of complaints. I know Mr. St. Columbia, he's probably confused because I don't think he was here on neither time I've been here. So I'm asking, so the first time I came, I was concerned about the ditch that lies between my building and Jackson Holly. So that building ditch, I mean, the ditch that sits beside my building, the overflows were bad. And it flows up under my building, which have damaged my property. And so I brought a proposal to the council. Again, you wasn't here neither time. And they told me that they would reach out to an engineer. I contacted Mr. Valley and asked him about the engineer the second time. No one never come out. So when I finally spoke to the engineer, he said he was never aware of coming out trying to see nothing about no property or how to fix nothing. So the last time I was here, they told me again that an engineer or engineering would come out and they would contact me, but I still hadn't heard from anybody.
How long has your problem been going on?
My problem been going on since Hollowell was in office. And I've been trying my best to get up in front of you guys and get up in front of you. So I end up, when Kevin Smith was in office, I went to him about it. So they told me to hold on and wait until Mayor Franklin was in office to put it on the agenda for then. So I end up writing 3 times before I could even get up in front of you guys. And I've submitted pictures of how it have damaged my floor. I have done everything and I don't know what to do from this point on.
Engineer, you talking about Mr. Whelan?
What is his name? He was at our funeral home at a visitation. What's his name? Mike
Alexander.
I spoke with him.
Right.
The day of visitation, and I asked him when Mr. Valley told me that the engineer supposedly came out the first time. And when I spoke with Mr. Mike, he said he knew nothing about it. He said nobody had contacted him, about the problem. He didn't know anything, and he said he will reach out to Mayor Franklin, but I guess he never reached out either.
He didn't, and he's not an engineer. He works for the engineering firm, so Ken Weiland was aware of it, and from what I'm getting, it's basically it's a ditch that runs straight through and around and curve. The ditch is not a ditch anymore, erosion.
But it only floods one particular part. I don't care how far that ditch go. And when Valley clearly said that it floods this area, this area, this area, and this area. I rode the day we had last week when we had the rain. I rode those areas.
And Ms. Stevens, I understand, if you look on Plaza floods all the time.
But I mean, I understand Plaza floods. I do understand Plaza, but I'm talking about what he said.
Oh, I understand, but there are other areas in this, the council, this is your decision on what you all decide to do.
I would ask this, in Mr. Wheelan on retainer?
Mhm.
Can he go look at it?
I mean, that's the problem. She said
They've been promising me to come look at it ever since I've been coming in front of you guys. Nobody have reached out to me. Nobody have come out. The only thing been put up was my fence. The grass haven't been cut. I mean, nothing is, the fire hydrant still leaks.
The fire hydrant leaks?
The fire hydrant been leaking well over a year now. It had rusted out. I gave those pictures to them as well. I mean, they.
You got a question, Ms. Sanko?
Who fixes the fire hydrant? Does the fire department do that?
The water department.
Huh?
But
Water department.
what happened with the fire hydrant, when the city council approved the inspectors to come out and fix all the hydrants, the ones you see with the black garbage bags over? Then they have a black garbage bag.
Nothing never been done to that water.
Yeah, it's when.
The only thing they came out and did was mark it.
No. But before then, all those meters, because the former council approved.
My meter have never had a black garbage bag.
I'm saying that they flushed all those hydrants, and some of those hydrants they touched messed up. You see, some of them, if you go on Anderson, you got some tied up with a black garbage bag. Do you remember there was the former mayor hired some contractors coming and flush all those hydrants, and the fire department could have done that, and some of those caused leaks, and that's one of those that has been leaking for a while because they didn't properly fix it. But that's not what we're here about. But whatever this body decides to do, then that's fine. But I'm gonna just tell you this: once you fix it, be prepared for other people to come for the same thing. So whatever you all do, she needs to have properly fixed. Whatever you all do, just remember that we're opening up a door. Yeah. So if the engineer has not come out to her, she's right. But you have to look at this very carefully. She's been here a number of times. So I mean, the city attorney just walked in. He can better speak to the issues. Okay. On legally, what can we do? Because
the last time she came, it's been a couple, about 3 weeks ago, maybe. Is he not scheduled? Is he been too busy, or has he not been asked?
Well, he's been asked, but he's been working on, we got this bridge project that he's working on. So that's probably that's pressing the next. So.
But he's supposed to be came out the first time prior to the second time I was here.
You have to ask him. But I've asked him. He's gonna get paid to go. So.
I'm just thinking, go ahead. I'm just thinking like maybe the things that maybe might be our responsibility, such as if there's erosion where we could look at it. The fire hydrant, that sounds like that's probably a city issue. But that's the fire department, water department had to go look at those things. I know the other areas dealing with repairing the floor and stuff, that's a whole nother issue that Mr. Valley has spoken to, but the other exterior issues are definitely issues I think we could look at repairing and fixing. That's just my thought.
Put back up, but I do see that the grades needs to be cut next to the fence.
Can I say something before you take it? Mr. Sally? I'm all for Ms. Stevens getting us repairing Ms. Stevens' floor. I feel like that we are responsible for that if the city is the flooding is on the from the ditches and everything, but my concern is I would be afraid for us to fix it now without finding out what the problem is, fixing the problem, and then we have to go back and continue to replace the floor again and again.
Yeah.
That is my only concern, but I really think we should pay for her floor to be fixed, but I think we need to try to fix the problem first because she'll be back and we'll have to replace another floor.
I think that, and my thoughts are that if we have someone who's on retainer, then, I mean, I understand that he's probably tied up and all of that, but being that she's been through how many administrations, 2 or 3? I mean, I would think that if he could just come and do a visit with her, I mean, for 30 minutes to an hour, at least honestly assess her situation, then that would be helpful. I mean, I understand, you know, that I'm like, Mr. Miller as well. I mean, we've been told that because of the tort immunity, that might not be something we can do. I don't know, but I do think that we can do. I agree. If he's on retainer, then it would seem that he could come and look at it.
If I illuminate just a little bit further, Ms. Stevens problem has existed as she told you to the Hollowell administration. But this administration has gone out in the ditch next to her property line. The fire hydrant is leaking and continues to leak, but it is not causing the flood. I mean, you know,
I never said the fire was part of the flood.
just making them understand, fixing that leak ain't gonna stop whatever the flood is. It needs to be fixed, but that ain't gonna stop the flood. So the ditch has been cleaned, and either I misspoke or she misunderstood. I didn't say all of those areas were flooding. I said the ditch flows that way, and that the land is very flat, so it doesn't have a grade that gets it out quickly. And so this problem that she has, unless you put in a real big tank and a sump, and something that forces water away from her, is going to exist, period. Now, why the engineer has not gone out, I can't tell you, other than I talked to Mike today, and Mike made it seem as though we had not had contact with him. But just by example, you know, we went down Word Street early this year, January. We have not received a report from the engineer on Word Street. Word Street is the header. We haven't gotten that. And you know he knows about that one because he came to you specifically to get permission to do the work. And then when we begin to ask for other work, the engineer asked for a global agreement that was under $5,000 that Mayor could engage. And that's where we are on that. Now, there's some million-mile stuff going back and forth between the engineer and the water department about these other projects that you're here at some other point. But as far as Ms. Stevens goes, she's behind the other folks that the engineer is dealing with. Why he hasn't gone, I can't explain. I wish I could. Since she came the last time, we've been out, we fixed the sidewalk next to her. It ain't her sidewalk, but the sidewalk we had taken up, trying to figure out the problem. The fence, she said we couldn't find, but we fixed it. She said we fixed it. The grass has not been cut, although we've talked to Mr. Collins and others. We didn't have the right machine to reach across the ditch to cut it without tearing the fence up. Until we get that, we ain't gonna get that grass.
Oh.
So we don't want to fix the fence again. But basically, to fix the fence, so we messed up. We don't want to mess the fence up again, so it's gonna be cut, but it hasn't been. So she's been getting attention, although we hadn't gone up, knocked on the door, say, hey, we out here working. We've been going over that, and we've been doing the work that the mayor and this council have asked us to do. I empathize with Ms. Stevens in that the problem persists. And I don't know the solution to it, but I do have a similar concern as Councilman Harris. If you fix the problem today, in terms of a flow,
Okay, let
but
me.
don't fix the flood or the drainage, it's really a drainage issue, it's a flash flood issue. The water sits there when it rains hard and it slows down. That's what it is, the flash flood issue. But I'll let her speak, I'm not trying to keep up.
I mean, I'm just trying to see because you're standing here like you are engineering, you know all the routes and routes of, this or that. I mean, if you know all this, I'm just trying to see why do y'all gotta call the engineer now if you know what's going on?
Well, the engineer has a different skill set and a different license that I have.
But the engineer is not showing up.
I understand. So that's what he does. He does the engineering. He shoots the grade. He look at the topography of the area and do all the things necessary to try to tell you how to best get the water to drain. So it's a flat area.
I'm hearing the discussion. I think everybody at the table should understand what immunity means. It doesn't mean we can't do it. It means we can't be made to do it. So she couldn't sue us, for example, and get judgment because we can do it whenever we want to, but when we do it, we waive it. We waive the immunity. My concern is when you waive it, to what extent did you waive it? That means anytime somebody comes in the door and says, I hit a pothole and you damaged my rim, my tire, it's your fault. Are we gonna entertain all those types of claims? Every neighborhood that has flooding issues, somebody says it damaged or eroded my property, which happens when you have flooding, property gets eroded. Are we gonna start to entertain those? And then eventually somebody's gonna say, well, you waived it over there. So you waived it for all purposes for over here. And now we got to make that argument. No, it was just a single time waiver. It was, so immunity means she can't make us do it. My suggestion is that we figure out the best way possible to fix the flooding. But when you start waiving immunity and entertaining damages in places where you don't have to, you open up Pandora's box. So, sometimes
Just kind of.
it's too dangerous from my perspective.
I mean, you're saying it's dangerous because it's not your property. You're not understanding that that I've been here numerous times trying to get you guys to send somebody out to see why the problem is existing and nobody is having came about. Nobody have contacted me. I mean, he's saying they're doing this and they're doing that. I'm not asking nobody to come to my property, knock on my door and say, hey, we're down here.
Well, Ms. Stevens, let me be clear. I sympathize with your problem.
I don't need nobody sympathizing with me. I just asked the question about my property being fixed because that city ditch is the reason why my property is like that. I don't need nobody to sympathize with me. I don't need no pity. I don't need none of that. I'm just asking the question of having my floor fixed.
Okay, I understand. You need money. Ms. Stevens, I sympathize with the problem, but when I say it's dangerous, I'm talking about a larger issue than what you're talking about. It doesn't just impact you. If we start trying to issue out damages for claims to you, it doesn't just impact you. We have to be concerned about the big picture.
But you're saying I can't make you guys do, I'm not trying to make nobody do anything. I'm not trying to make nobody do nothing. I am just clearly trying to see when are you guys going to do something about my property? Because that is not, I mean, I can understand it if it was my ditch. I have literally went from Hollowell to Smith, now I'm here. Nobody else. I mean, if the ditch would have been fixed a long time ago, I wouldn't be standing here.
Ms. Stevens, that's all I'm emphasizing is that we need to fix the ditch. That's all I'm saying. We need to fix the ditch. I support whatever it takes to fix the ditch, provided we have the financial ability to do so, to fix the ditch. What I can't support is the paying of damages, and that's where I'm making a divide. When you start talking about.
Can you not support it because, I mean, it's the city's ditch? I mean, I can understand. I got that floor.
Yes, ma'am.
I have gotten it fixed.
The floor is the danger, the ditch is not. As a legal matter, the floor is the danger, the ditch is not.
The issues I said many times, but that's the scope to solve with immunity. I think that you open the Pandora's box when you start going through and trying to do things and waiving immunity on the issue. The issue is that this only occurs during flash flooding timeframe. It is not the city's water. The water is what's causing the problem. The ditch was there to remedy water, trying to create the flow. I've said on the 3 occasions he's come, that there's less than a 2-inch fall over that entire region. And that is going to take some major engineering to do so. That's part of the reason why we've been dealing with drainage, trying to deal with drainage over this all over. The chief of staff spoke to coming through numerous times. All over the city, people have issues, and I'm not trying to be dismissive of what you're saying, but once you go in and say we're going to repair this, you're going to have claims from everybody who have water issue anywhere saying that I need to repair my floor, I need to repair this floor. And technically, the reason for sovereign immunity is from a legal standpoint, Mrs. Stevens, you are the owner of the ditch because you are a taxpayer in the city. And that's the basis for sovereign immunity is just because we as citizens are the true owners because we're the taxpayers and we are suing ourselves. It's basically what sovereign immunity amounts to. And so cities are only liable, municipalities, governments are only liable to the extent that insurance is required for something. So a police car or wreck or something like that, the law imposes the duty for everybody to have insurance. The cities have to have insurance for those type of things. But for all the other things that may occur, sovereign immunity exists. It is an issue that we all have to do with. At our houses, all of us have to go through and make repairs based on drainage, based on every other thing. We have to take some affirmative duty as well. I know you don't want empathy, but it's one of those things that water is something that's difficult to control. Me personally, I can do a lot of things relating to the water that runs. It runs directly to my corner where I live. And I've constantly had to do things relating to my house, my family, and all those things. And so it's one of the things that all of us have to deal with. And the city would have to waive immunity to fix something. And once you do so, everybody who stays down a hill, everybody who stays where there's water that grab, all the people over Helena, they live in a bowl. Well, water, literally, we have a levee all over North Helena, all the way around because of flooding. We have other places where people naturally flood. It's not the city's water. When the water comes, it just comes and it flows. The issue is we need the engineer to adequate design because the city has gone in and tried to make some repairs, but those repairs are not adequate because you needed someone with the skill set of an engineer to properly shoot the grade, to properly do things. The chief of staff spoke regarding pumps and et cetera. And we need someone with that level of skill set to design all of that. And it's not just a design for your corner, it's a design for the entire area. Because once the water flows from you, for instance, we fix the ditch that you've cited. The area moves from you, it moves to your neighbor's house, and now the same problem happens to his neighbor. And so we would go from place to place to place, fixing as the water begins to flow, it's going to stop somewhere else. Begin to flow, it's going to stop somewhere else. So the problem is going to be moved down the street, and once you agree to pay for her, the next neighbor said, well, now you're eroding this, now you're eroding this. And that is the problem. That is the basis of why sovereign immunity applies in all these situations. It's not that we are not concerned about your structure. We're excited about every home in the city. But the issue is.
So it's like they are concerned with certain areas and certain homes in the city, certain businesses in the city. So you're saying that they're concerned with, I mean, it's not like you guys are not concerned. No, they're concerned with certain things in the city. They're concerned with certain people in the city. They're concerned with certain areas in this city.
Ms. Stevens, I beg to differ. I'm concerned about the whole city. That's, I have, and we got a lengthy agenda. The body right now, what do you want to do? The city attorney has told you all. My thing is get the engineer out there to do the work. Let's go from there. So Ms. Ramsey, because you're good at that, will you make sure tomorrow Ken Wyland is called to go out there, and when he goes, I will go with him to Ms. Stevens. So when you let me, we have to get in contact with Ms. Stevens, let her know that we're on our way out there. Ms. Stevens, I promise you, we're going to get this together for you. And I do apologize. I know that, we may have difference about it, but we're going to take care of that ditch for you. And that's where we are. I promise you. Miss Sandy, we will get that done. And I will let Mr. Anthony, Miss Davis, Miss Miller, and Mr. Miller, Miss Harris, and Mr. St. Columbia know. We'll be out there. They'll get a phone call. You all get a phone call, a text from me and Miss Rambler. So we went out there. So let us take care of the ditch, and it won't take you 30 days. On the 19th, Miss Rams put it back on the agenda. Will you come back on the 19th and tell us what you got?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So we're gonna hear from the fire chief. After the fire chief, then Chief Bell. After Chief Bell, then we'll hear from the Street and Sanitation Department. Chief Brown.
Right. Good evening. Right. What is passing out, council members, is the packet for the financing of a new cascade system that we need for the fire station. And it will not affect the general fund. This will be funded through our Act 833 fund. So it won't be a burden on the city. And inside of it, Ms. Miller, you'll see, if you guys look, there's a picture of what I'm talking about. The first picture shows our air pack. Will be used in preparation. Yeah, that's all right. That's the system that I'm seeing. Look on the second page. The first page basically shows you bottle of cylinder that we use for air packs. We use for respiration. You guys understand what we're doing. This is just remember for our everyday operation in the fire department. We're just there a few dollars a time. When we're going out fires and stuff like that, this is what we use, and we need this system to be financed. It's time. It's time. We have one that's located at Station 2 that hasn't worked since last year, and earlier this year I've written 2 grants to get this cascade system to no avail. So now we're here to seek and finance it. It's going to be 54,000 plus your 0.2, your 6.79 financing. So it'll be roughly around 66,000. And I suggested we go with the 6 payments because it's the interest rate is a little lower, and this will be a one-time payment for 6 years.
Will this be from Act 833?
This will be from Act 833. It'll be financed through our Act 833 fund. The mayor's on board. I've talked to Sandy, the city clerk, and the city treasurer. Everybody's on board, so we can afford it.
We can take one time and do once a year.
Once a year for 6 years. Yes.
So the wishes of the body.
Yes, sir.
I see the first payment is in, is that the first payment?
Yes, and the
next
first
year?
payment won't be until February of next year. Yes.
You want to answer?
I think must answer the question was what are the Act 833 fund year to date?
Okay, well, we haven't received the check for the year. We should be receiving one in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Last year, we received 185,000 from Act 833. So every year somewhere around that. And next week, September the 15th, we'll have our last payment on our tanker truck, which is 44,000 a year. So we'll be cleared of that burden next year. Next week, we'll be paying it off. Thank the Lord. Yeah. So we are able to afford it through our Act 833 fund. 6 years.
6 years.
Yes, a one-time payment of $11,058.04. Once a year for 6 years. Yeah. The one in Station 2 went out, and the parts are obsolete, so we can't get it fixed. And that one and the one we have operating on Cherry Street, they were received on a grant over 20 years ago. So it's time to upgrade. The closest filling station that we have is Clarksdale or maybe Ford City for bottles that we use.
Okay. City attorney, we can't go 6 years anyway. Mr. Val.
Yeah, I believe we got to start at 5 years.
Okay, well, there's a 5-year option on there also.
Do they have a finance? Did they give you a financing agreement?
That's what is attached here.
Interest rate is 6.83.
I'm talking about the actual contract. Well, it has to be okay through the council first. This is just the preliminaries, really. So once you guys okay the financing, then we'll go from there. Yeah. That's what we got.
Who wishes of the body?
I would like to make a motion.
Ms. Harris moves to approve the cascade system for the fire department under the 5 years. Under 5 years. Ms. Davis seconds the motion. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Question. None of this money is coming out of our general fund.
This will be funded through our Act 833 fund.
Can you say it one more time slowly?
It will be funded through our Act 833 fund that we have.
And it's no money to who?
To the general fund.
Thank you.
Last year, we received 185,000 from Act 833. So to me, that's our lifeline. A lot of the things that we have, fire trucks, remodeling fire stations, tools, things of that nature have been funded through the Act 833.
So the payment of all this doesn't put any strain on the city.
No, sir. It'll be strictly coming out of, it won't be funded through.
Financially.
It won't be funded through the general fund. It'll be funded through our Act 833 fund.
Why the motion, do you want to explain the Act 833 fund to the public?
The Act 833 fund, it's a portion of your homeowner's insurance that you pay. And it's divvied out throughout the counties in the state. So everybody that has a home, you're paying into this fund. It's a half of 1%. It's a premium tax in which you pay. So it's divvied out between the county. We're the county seat, we're the largest populated city in the county, therefore we get the biggest amount.
That's where the money's coming from to pay for all.
Yes, sir. Phillips County receives 1.12% from Act 833 throughout the state.
Thank you, Chief Brown, for explaining that. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll? Any more discussion? Madam Clerk, thank you.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Davis. Yes. Mr. Etherly.
Yes.
Ms. Maxine Miller.
Yes.
Mr. St. Columbia.
Yes.
And Mr. Cotton.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief
All
Brown,
right,
Chief
all right.
Moore, for what you all do for the fire department. Thank you so much for saving this money. Chief Bell, if you would.
Thank you, guys.
Say good evening to the mayors and council. I don't have Act 33. What is it? I don't have an Act 333, but we're going to stay within the allotted budget that we've already been given with my presentation. I misplaced my agenda. I think the first thing on there is the incentive pay. And in your packages, I gave you all a copy of the law. And I will read that and then kind of give my explanation of it. It's statute 129101 entitled legislative determination. And it reads, the General Assembly finds and determines that the administration of criminal justice is of a statewide concern and that law enforcement is important to the health, safety, and welfare of the people of this state. The state has a responsibility to ensure effective law enforcement by establishing minimum selection, training, and education requirements for law enforcement officers, and also to encourage advanced and service training programs. And it is in the public's interest that minimum levels of education and training be developed and made available to persons seeking to become law enforcement officers and to persons presently serving as law enforcement officers. I believe that this statute affirms the need for monthly incentives for police officers. And I concur with that. The incentive pay is based on certificates that we police officers earn through time and service and educational and training points. In your package, you have a list of what those consist of. We're asking that each officer is paid $50 per certificate, a maximum of 5 certificates per officer. Now, this is not 5 certificates all at one time. They are earned, and the first 2 are basically automatic, basic and general. The next 3, the officer will have to obtain his college English 1 and 2, plus training points and in service tenure. So it's not, it wouldn't be a great burden on the city's budget to do that. And it encourages the officer to further his education, his or her education as well. So I think it's something that will just raise our morale just a little bit higher than where we are. So we're asking that you all, if you have read that and understood that, will help us in passing this request. That's the first thing.
They had a third level, which they have to get English 1 and 2.
Yes.
And then what were the other 2 levels?
I can hear you.
What were the other 2 levels after 3? 4?
You got general, basic, general, advanced, intermediate, and senior.
Okay.
And chiefs have what they call a senior chief certificate, which is 6. And to help our officers, we have engaged, partnered with the college, Phillips County Community College. We have partnered with them. They are providing us with an English class. It's a technical writing class that helps our officers to better write reports, complete sentences, punctuation, which is something that we need very, very badly. So we are engaging in furthering our education.
That's great.
The next, I don't have my agenda, the meritorious promotion. I think we're gonna table that. We're gonna table that for right now. It's not really urgent. That's, any more questions that it relates to the incentive program?
If you have with the college, that's already started,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And so you have the officers, they're going through that class, and that is in an effort to have them to be a little bit more efficient with the reports and
Yes.
all of that.
Yes, and these classes are free, put on by the college, tuition free.
So college offering those classes.
Yes.
Man, okay.
And you said $50 per certificate
Yes, sir.
per month.
Per month,
Okay, so somebody gets 5 certificates, they would get an additional $250 per month.
yes. And to be frank, it would probably be for these guys to receive the 5 certificates, we're probably looking 5 to 6 years down the road. So it's not an immediate expense on the general fund. So
What's the fastest they could get these?
if the officer completes English 1 and 2, then your tenure, time, and grade come into play. Probably 15 years, if I recall the handout that I gave you all.
Is anybody who already qualified?
We all qualified, at least 2. Now I got 6. So I think a couple of guys, we have our some college English already, so they are now working on training points plus time and grade.
And that's my question. If you have somebody who's already in your department who's had English, I guess it's gonna be comp 1 and 2, they
Yeah,
don't have to go back and take it. They already
yes,
qualified.
yes,
Yes, they do.
they do, yes, they do.
Wait a minute.
Yes, they have English
Yeah.
1 and 2.
He confused me. So they're already qualified. They will already receive the incentive.
The
If
first,
they already have it, the
first two.
Okay.
They receive the first two because they don't have the time and service at this point.
Chief Bell, okay, so I'm gonna ask this question, and I hope that it's not a stupid question. So I'm reading here, it says, in an effort to accomplish this, I've cut members, the number of officers in the budget, we budgeted for 41, I've decreased that to 25. So let me understand something, because the reality is that you have hunted and searched and tried to get officers. And we don't have a lot of people knocking doors down.
Right.
So it's not like you're defunding the police department.
No.
What you are doing is saying, look, this is what we've tried to do. We don't have people knocking the door down. Let's go back to the table. Let's maybe have a fewer number. And you've assured us that the 25 full-time, 5 part-time should be sufficient to cover our city in terms, and you all, by the way, are doing a great job. So that way, we're able to give the incentives to our officers who are already present.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand that.
The 25 is the number of officers are based on population. And there was a study, I think we used a study based on the New York City's population. It's normally 2.5, 3 officers per 1,000. So our population has over the years has decreased. I think we're at 9,000, maybe 10,000. So 25 is in line with our population. And plus, if we got 25, that gives us 9 officers per shift. And I think we can be very effective in covering our geographic area and our community with 25.
And that doesn't prevent us from, say, for instance, if we had a huge influx down the line, and we could always go back and add positions in with an ordinance, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't want, that's because I talked to Chief Bell offline. I don't want us to be confused. The 250 that he's asking for, not to come out of that money necessarily.
Right.
That's gonna be a separate request to pay the people you got better.
It's 2 pieces.
That's
2 different.
That's what that memo is about.
That's a good segue into the next point, though.
You got the
The piece that Mr. Miller just spoke about, we are asking the city council to increase our salaries. And we have done a study of the departments that's in our geographical area, Fort City, Mariana, Marble. They are comparable in size to us, but their salaries are a lot higher than ours. Our salary base starts out at 11, I think 25. I think the highest one would be the chief, but the rank and file is probably at some of them $15. And that's really not enough to maintain and retain our staff. Over the last month, we've lost 4 important and key personnel. They went to the sheriff's office because they're paying more money. And what I've done with the 25 number that Mr. Miller spoke about, we were budgeted 41 officers. And I've taken that and decreased it to 25. I've taken those funds and spread those funds out and stayed within the budget that was allotted for us. As a matter of fact, I'm lower than what was budgeted by $187,000. So I think it's feasible to do. The money's already there. It's no new money. It's the same monies that you've already given us in the budget. We just condensed the number of officers to attract and to keep what we already have.
And I think this is very good because we tried to do this before to because we could never get to the 32 officers we were allotted, so, and we still not. So I think that the police department has came with a good idea. There's no new money, budget neutral, using the same what you have to attract more. Because I think with 25, we met, you know, if you approve this, you're gonna get some more qualified officers, because you open up the pay scale is so much different than what we had before. I think years before, that's when they got, when Mr. Anthony was trying to get them to see that we could never get to the number. The boss not being able to get to the number, Mr. Anthony decided, and members of the body had decided to work on a proposal to see how we attract. And it went another way, but I think what he's doing the same thing that we intended to do. Am I correct, Mr. Anthony? So it's the same thing we tried to do so that we could get officers, because what he gave us, Mariana Police Department is 14, well, non-certified is 14, certified is 16, Marlboro 13, certified 16, Brent is 1650 non-certified, certified 18, Forest City 16 non-certified, 17 certified after a year, 18, and Phillips County Jailer 1478. So we're $11. So, you know, what you go, our officers have left and we had an officer who went out to Walmart to work security and made more working for a security company than they made for the city. So the proposal is a decent and good proposal. If we're going to attract more officers now to get to the 25. Because I don't want to ask the number because I want to ask the number, but we know we don't have the number that we need. And I'm hoping that you all would take this and just let's go with this so we can get some applications. So our human resource department can be knocking in the morning with applicants.
Amen.
So this is something we need to do. This will be a plus for the department. It'll boost the morale in the department because they see what we're trying to do. And we can't get to the office that we're allotted to. I think this would help us. I think better patrol, better everything. And you'll see when you put your money where your mouth is, and these folks can work. And they need it. You know, so trying to balance two jobs, working one job and then coming to this job. We just need the pay gonna get us qualified officers and gonna boost our officers up. So I would hope you all take some consideration and let's move forward with this. We know we got a long agenda, so I would entertain a motion. So let's get this done.
Quick question though. So when an officer applies for a job or a person applies for the job, explain to me just briefly. So how does that work? They go to where do they go to get certification? How does that work? Just real quick.
They go to Camden for the 13 weeks. Camden, Arkansas, that's where Arkansas Law Enforcement Training Academy is held.
So they go to.
Yes. Yes.
And so then after that, okay.
And Chief, if you would, our officers did an outstanding job recently. And we should applaud our officers for doing a great job. Chief, if you just do a smaller detail of what happened with our officers over the weekend. Our officers, we get a lot of news about our officers, but our officers have done something that hadn't been done.
I'd like to mention three things if I can. I mean, real
Yes, sir.
quick.
Yes, sir.
Officer Bird, sometimes my headache, but he did a great. We had that kind of relationship. He did a marvelous job. He answered the call. The young juvenile was crying, and he pulled him to the side, talked with him, and he found out that the child was crying because he didn't have a television. And he called me and he said, my wife and I, we're going to Walmart and buy this child a television. So in the process of investigating further, he learned that they did not have the proper uniform to go to school or shoes to wear to school. They didn't have food in the refrigerator. So all of us, police department, we came together and made sure that they had adequate clothing, shoes, and food in the refrigerator. So I applaud beds. So I applaud our guys. We a couple of weeks ago, we took what I would describe one of the biggest fentanyl dealers in our community off of our streets, and he's still locked up. So then this weekend, another individual we arrested. He was making, or what we call it? Putting switches into AR-15s. AR-15s are assault rifles. They come semi-automatic, or they come a single shot. He's putting these mechanisms in there that will make them fully automatic, which is dangerous, not just for the community, but dangerous for the law enforcement officers. So our officers work diligently together and arrested him, and the FBI came in and they're gonna take over the case, and so he's gonna do some federal time. So we got some dedicated officers with fewer numbers, but we're out here working, and they work long hours. They don't complain either. So.
And members of the body, with that dedication and what they're doing for less, we're cutting numbers to make sure we can pay folks to get adequate trained officers, and our officers here deserve it. And I want them to have it because there's no new money. We're just cutting positions. And if the Lord bless us to get more population, we'll get more money. But right now, this is where we are, and this needs to happen for the department. So I obtain a motion and a second, if I could get that.
I'd like to make the motion. Yes.
Miss Miller moves to.
Ma'am,
Yes, vote on two items.
I'd like to.
I'd like to get.
What is, Ms. Miller, what is your motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we cut. Correct me if I'm wrong. The number of officers from the 41 to the 25. And that we do this within. And we give them the increases that they're asking for. I knew y'all helped me.
Your motion is set.
Yeah.
Right, set this proposal to reallocate the money.
Yeah.
To increase the salaries of the existing officers.
Yes.
You're not cutting positions they hadn't been filled. They were 41 and you anticipate the department with 25. So we're increasing the actual money that you're spending with your police department that's adequately on staff.
Great.
Yes.
Ms. Harris, you second the motion?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Stephanie?
We need some time for a soft. I absolutely support the proposal. I had it some years ago. But do we need some time to have a soft landing? Kind of like when minimum wage went up, we knew it was going up, and so we were able to kind of plan for it. I mean, do we dive in feet first, or do we like, okay, let's start this after a certain period of time? Feet first. I understand, like, my question is about cash on hand. I mean, when payroll comes around, it's a crush to the city. Is this something?
I understand.
Is this something that we can sit here and confidently say, next payroll and next payroll, next payroll, will absolutely be able to do it with no problem? And if it's not, I'm looking at the people who handle money and saying, let's just be honest and say, we need a soft landing. They'll understand, we support it. Don't do it. But I mean, tell what you know. Tell what you know.
So your question to the city clerk, to the treasurer.
Yeah, do you need time?
Yeah.
I mean, let's not play around with it. Let's be honest. Okay.
I don't do the payroll. But if you ask my answer is.
BS about money. If we need time to phase it in, let's just phase it in.
We need probably. Of course, what's gonna happen is the people's salaries gonna go up. You're still gonna have a shortage of officers, then overtime. Automatic. And then overtime's gonna go up.
Well, mathematically, will it be, see what I'm saying? We can size this up and see if mathematically it's the same. If it's the same, then it's no problem. But if it's gonna be greater than the overtime, then it is a problem. It could end up being less than overtime.
I got something to say.
The math and make the proper plan to put it in place.
Yeah. I got something to say. Agree. Before, I know the chief's proposal goes through the salary. I asked the city clerk and the city treasurer, the chief was given a memo to you all. Whenever we look at salaries, it doesn't just end with salaries. The benefits that go with these, how they're affected. When we're doing this, we look at the numbers, how does retirement go up and the other things that we provide? Have you all considered those as part of this?
Yeah, I've talked to the chief 2 or 3 different times. And what I found was that salaries go up, benefits go up, life payments go up. We pay about, somewhere, well, I say 80, 90, depends on, we get discounts throughout the year. But the benefit payments are gonna go up. So it's just real hard to, we know immediately that payroll is gonna increase. So that's just, we know even with the level of officers that we have now, any increase in pay is gonna increase payroll.
The second question I have, and Chief Bill mentioned the $197,000 difference between what's budgeted and what you're actually spending as it relates to salaries itself. Does that number include your increases in lobby and other things we talked about?
His does, I've done a worksheet. He's giving me some different numbers. I haven't had time to run these numbers. His numbers, he's talking about the appropriations. So appropriations, he's correct. He's taken officers away, he cut the salaries, and he put them into fewer number of officers. So he's correct in the fact that the appropriations, the budget will be less or comparable the budget. But like I said, what Mr. Etherly said is that it's going to increase payroll. Payroll is going to increase. We know that. I don't know how much. So I suggested, I agree with Mr. Etherly that we should have a soft landing. And it's hard to determine right now. I could probably figure the numbers out. I was kind of hoping. We'll look at it. And then we need some more time to get.
The very much it is with the numbers, because it's gonna affect everything we do.
So again, I absolutely support the idea. Let's know what we gotta do to make it happen. So that's.
We looked at the numbers already, right?
Yeah, we looked at the appropriations, yeah. I haven't had a chance to go over, but my intent was to go over to see how this would actually affect the actual payroll for the officers that we have currently. And so we can I can do some sort of analysis to determine how it would affect the payroll now with the current number of officers.
What you're saying is that we're going old and.
I mean, that's.
I'm gonna be confused. I'm not. Like that,
Okay.
but the numbers that we're talking about.
Okay, we have 13 officers. If they make $10 an hour and you raise them to $15 an hour, it's gonna increase payroll.
I understand that.
Okay, and that's what we're saying, and we're trying to figure out.
The number that we're talking about is already budgeted. There's no new money.
But with Mr. Etherly and what I'm talking about is how it will affect cash flow, the payroll.
The number of officers on the payroll right now. Every 2 weeks, they get a paycheck. The ones that are in the budget that are unfilled, they don't get a check, so it's not coming out of the actual funds. So my experience is that when people got extra money, they spend it somewhere else. They don't just hold on to it, right? So I imagine that money is going somewhere else, right? It ain't going, it's not just sitting there waiting. That's just me pulling it out of my mind. And so what I'm saying is, do y'all need time to get your house in order so that you can take this in the direction that it's supposed to be in?
Let me add this to these numbers you're talking about. You're gonna spend your money.
Chief, you go to the mic.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend the money regardless. These guys are working 50 hours overtime, each officer that we have, each pay period, they get overtime. So you're gonna spend the money whether you want to or not. They're gonna respond to different calls because we're shorthanded. So we can sit here and debate the numbers up and down and how it's gonna affect the payroll. We make payroll every payroll with the overtime that we're spending. So I don't see how or why we should have to wait because the money's already being spent.
I think you're both actually saying the same thing in a different way. Just that, Mr. Essley, and I don't intend to speak for you, but I think what he may be saying is, if in fact this money that is in your funds may be utilized for other things, we may want to go recover that money or make sure that it's there so that when we do give you those raises, we can do them comfortably.
If they continue to work these 12 hours like we're doing, so they're not gonna get paid.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. They work and they work overtime. And you can, overtime it might fluctuate. It might be this many this week, might be this many that week. And we've made it paying overtime. When their salary base changes, the benefits are gonna change also. Those numbers are not gonna be identical. One is gonna be greater and one is gonna be less. We may find out that overtime is greater than just giving them a pay raise. Wonderful. They'll make more money. We'll be able to attract more people, but we may find out that the overall payroll is greater when they have to pay it every 2 weeks with the base salary increase. And so they may have to make some adjustments to whatever they do and however they pay bills in order to make sure they make payroll. Because the worst thing that could happen is payroll comes around and people start, we don't have the money to give them. That would be awful. And so let's make sure there's some numbers that can be identified. And whenever you can identify the number, my preference is let's identify exactly what the number is so we know what we're spending. Kind of like going on a trip and you got a map and you don't look at it. I'm just going to drive in that direction. And I think I'll get there if I drive west. Well, if we can read the map and know exactly where we are, let's read the map. And the map is the money in this instance. If we know exactly what we are about to spend, I'm just saying, let's do the equations and figure out how much it is. So we'll know that they can make it when payroll comes around. Because if it's greater than overtime, there might be a strain on them. And see, I've been sitting here for some years and they like to tell everybody that asks for money, yeah, we got it, we'll find it. I heard that too long now. Tell me what the number is. Just tell me what the number is and let's figure out, let's make sure we can do it. That's got nothing to do with the police department. That's just in general. So when we start looking at it, let's figure out if we have it and if we don't. And when I say if we don't, I tell you 1,000 times, I fully support this proposal. I just want to make sure we got the money to pay it when it's time, when payroll comes around. That's all.
Really, the hope is that if this is passed, then I think that with the entry level salary, we're hoping to see an influx of people that's interested. Some they're interested now, but they're not coming because of the low salary. So we got officers from other agencies that are willing to come, but they're making more money where they are. We got officers that live here, from here, but they work in other areas. They're willing to come back home if the salary is at least comparable to what they are getting now.
You got a motion?
There's a motion second on the floor.
So do we want?
For one question that I don't think was answered when Mr. Etler had the discourse with you. Soft landing, and you said that you probably need some time frame. You didn't describe what type of time frame that you would possibly be looking at.
The only thing I was saying was, I mean, even when they were discussing it in my mind, I was saying, I wish I had a chance to run these numbers, because what I want to do, what I went back there at first to do was try to figure out the difference in what we had and how many officers we had, and how much the payroll was going to increase, and then divide that by 26 and try to determine how much that was gonna increase it. So I just figured I don't have time to kind of think about it right now. But like I said, it's gonna take some, I would say next council meeting. For sure. That's no problem having that information by then. I really don't I don't foresee a problem in paying. Just right off the top of my head, I don't see a problem in making payroll. But I would be guessing, right?
I don't see a problem either, but I don't want.
But I would be
I don't
guessing,
want-
yes. And so just, like I said, I've talked, I think me and Chief been going over this about 4 months. And so, since we have some, and like I said, he just changed the numbers. He went from, because initially we had cut it down to 33 officers. And then so he came back and cut it down to 25. And so that's gonna be another.
The bottom line is the same.
It's gonna be, but that's the budget.
Yeah.
That's an appropriation. That's what they say. Hey, this is the most you can. But what we're talking about is the cash is coming out of the bank.
I've got a question, Mr. Mayor. Once he look at his numbers, can y'all call a special meeting for the police?
And if that's what, I'm willing to do whatever we need to do, but but like if Ms. Miller withdraw her motion and Ms. Harris withdraw her second, we could do that. I mean, because understand this, when it comes to payroll and paying bills, the clerk goes through saying we can. And I want to be fair. I want to make sure that we can do this. It's gonna happen, but I want to make sure everybody got the knowledge and the information they need to say, hey, listen, we did this because we had the right numbers. I want nobody to come back and bite anybody. We can have a special, we can do another meeting Tuesday. I'd be happy to meet Tuesday. If you run it, if you all agree, we can meet next Tuesday and we can get this issue handled. But I want everybody to have the numbers. I want everybody to see it. So everybody can be comfortable, like, okay, I did this because we had these numbers in front of us. I don't want anybody to say I was blindsided, I was told this. The chief came to the front door and I'm gonna walk out the front door with it.
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. But God, I have can we do this week? No, can we do this week? Like maybe Friday, because I won't be here Tuesday. You won't either.
When is your next payroll?
Next week.
No, it's gonna be on 15.
Yeah, that's next week. Not this week, next week.
Yeah.
So do we meet again for payroll?
The 19th.
We can be right out there.
So would anybody have a suggestion meeting Friday? Friday doing lunch? I'll buy you lunch. Oh. Well, can we Friday?
There's just one meeting, I just do it on the 19th and make it effective the next pay. Or if you have to make it retroactive.
I just want, my goal is trying to get this financial stuff together and make the department happy and work so we can get some more officers on the street. So Chief, would you
Yes, sir.
y'all hold to the 19th?
Yes.
We'll see you on the 19th.
Thank y'all so
Thank
much.
you so much.
What about the certificate?
To the 19th.
250.
Motion still on the floor.
Oh.
Iverson.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's on the 250 program.
Y'all want to take up the 250? Right now, you want to wait till the 19th?
I was saying 250, but more specifically, you're saying that.
For the certificate pay.
Wait until the 19th. And
So we'll wait till 19th. Thank you, Chief.
I think.
Chief, what's the day? Wednesday.
Mhm.
Come tomorrow. Come by my office Friday. I'll run through this tomorrow. Or you can come by my office tomorrow evening or Friday, and then me and you will have the discussion then. All right.
We're gonna move around to the street sanitation, Mr. Collins.
Good evening. People staff. I need you over here for a minute. But you put it's about a garbage truck. We 29, we had all three of them broke down at one time. And 29 is running on his last leg. It's badly running, so we're gonna need at least one. At least, we need two, but we're gonna. You have the figures on this, I don't have the figures on.
Just by way of explanation, when he said truck number 29, sanitation department and landfill labels the truck by numbers and they know them by the number. But truck number 29, you consider the disabled or handicapped riders, the small truck that goes into the tight curve like in Wavy Woods, or it goes to the elderly person's home and gives them personal service where they just make sure their car is visible and the guys go up to the house and get it and bring it out. It don't have driveways, it don't knock down trees, it's a small truck. It only holds about 45 cans at a time, and then it's going back and forth to the landfill. You've seen it. It looks like a pickup truck with a garbage can on the back. So that's 29. That's the one he's saying is on his last leg. We had proposed to do either Perkins or another company, but we got two of the heavy duty pickup trucks, and we put the garbage tipper on the back of the pickup truck. Because to replace 29, it's like 150, 160,000 miles. And we could get two trucks like this at about 80,000 miles a piece, fully outfitted. The pickup truck doesn't do the same, serve the same purpose, but we'd have two as opposed to one. One of the problems we've had in the sanitation department is the lack of redundancy. When something breaks, everybody in town knows because we can't pick up the garbage or something happens. A cylinder goes out, whatever happens. When something happens in the sanitation department, if you go to Facebook, you know, trash can get picked up. And one of the trucks, we don't have any room for error in the sanitation department. And so what he's talking about now is truck number 29. Truck number 32 is the newest truck. It keeps having cylinders that go out, but it's still functional. It's still basically a good truck. That's the ASL, automatic side loader. It reaches out, grabs the can and dumps. Then there's truck number 55. It's an ASL as well, but it's about 3 steps from death, really, in the inflation. And then what other garbage we do?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
So I've suggested that we go with a rear loader to replace truck number 55, and the rear loader, although some people don't like it, I think it fits our skill set in terms of the people who we have working on them and people we have using them, and fewer moving parts. If the parts don't work, you just tip the garbage over in the back of the garbage truck. My understanding, we went away from the last rear loader because some accident happened, and I just think that's bad philosophy. We need a rear loader truck because we could almost always get the trash up with the rear loader truck. Matter of fact, we paid wash sellers quite a bit of money. You all approved us to hire him at $125 an hour because he had a rear loader truck and he was coming through and picking stuff up. And then something happened with his truck, I think.
His truck broke down.
We wore it out.
Yeah, well, I don't know about we wore it out. It broke down and we were stuck.
So I don't know, what are you asking to approve tonight?
I'm asking to approve this one.
We gave y'all, I guess we passed it around. And I guess we're asking to approve the model and the money, not necessarily that specific truck. Because you're gonna buy a brand new pickup truck and then buy the container to go on the back and they're gonna put them together to make it work. And that's about $80,000 for one. And I'm suggesting that we get two.
I agree.
No, the truck is about 55 to 60.
So a piece.
And then, yes, sir. So about 160.
Yeah.
We get two, or we can spend 160 to get one. That's the mechanical truck.
To help us out with 55, it would be feasible to get two of
The other thing is that this truck does not require a CDL driver.
them.
The 29 truck we have now doesn't require a CDL driver. And the guy who's driving is paid less than the other guys with CDL trucks. But anybody can drive. The ladies out there, you know, I could, well, anybody could drive that particular truck.
I drive.
Not that that happened, but that's kind of what
The
the
mayor can't pick them.
point of non-CDL.
Is there anybody else around us that's using something like this?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm just concerned it might not work or it might break, it might.
It might not work.
Yeah.
Well, we got any work.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, we just been blessed that we've been able to patch and keep them going. Now I'm telling you, they crawling. So if we don't be able to pick up your garbage, don't fall up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking like more like a addition unit.
What,
Something about the pickup truck with it.
we got.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah.
We got a proposal for traditional unit for the same $160,000, just gonna be one truck.
One girl.
Well, here, I have a couple of concerns. One, you have to wait compared to building to do this and do an ordinance to do so. And second, I haven't seen a contract for this or any of that for me to review. And I would have to review it before I recommend it to the council. Approve it.
Did you say you had to waive?
Well, I think what we're asking for preliminary approval to
You say you
start
had
the
to waive
process.
the ordinance.
Because we haven't made a deal with it about it, we just got prices.
Okay.
So I don't think we at the point where you are.
Okay.
But
But Dr. Miller asked me this question, and I'll repeat what I was saying. Because the mayor spending limit is 5,000 and competitive bidding is 7,500. It's above his competitive bidding. We would have to have an ordinance waiver competitive bidding. But what the chief of staff and the sanitation director, Mr. Collins, is saying is that right now there's actually approval to further engage. We're not trying to bind the city at this point. Is that correct?
that's correct. We're asking them to give us authority to further engage. And we come back with the stuff for them to approve it. Once we get tight numbers from somebody. This is just a proposal at this point. But they're saying, don't spend the money, then we keep patching and fixing, going to Browns, getting hold, the city getting hold, to Scruggs and getting hold. Call the moon, pull the application, all that kind of stuff. That's just the life of the sanitation problem.
Pulling the truck out of the ditch. Pulling it out of the ditch, why is it in the ditch?
Because our large truck tried to go in and pick up where this truck was supposed to win, and it was broke down.
So the truck tried to make a turn that he probably shouldn't have tried to make, but we're trying to get the ladies scratch up. And the road was.
Is that right?
And it slid over. And they tried to drive out with the weight on it, chipped it. Huh? Yeah. You don't realize how difficult some of these turns are until you're in a school bus or 18-wheeler garbage truck. But some of them are really tough to make. Like Columbia, there was this, I ain't calling by the name, but Columbia coming off Adams Hill. When you turn down that hill, all of those hills are deferred and everything, and all of that packed there. And the cars is all right, but everything else is like you can fall off third when you make the turn. And there's some others. Way the wood, it's hard to maneuver through that. Circle drive. It sounds like I've been on some of these roads.
I don't know. I believe you have.
I think that your information is very informative, but I think for council voting, I think you need a more complete packet. Because you're asking proposals, you can engage in proposals at any point, and then ask the council for when you have the complete packet for them to approve the complete packet. So we won't have to do this in two phases. I mean,
Mr. Collins said he had it ready on the 19th.
okay.
All right.
And so we can do the competitive bidding waiting ordinance, and you have the contracts and all that for me to look at and set up. Okay.
That we have read on 19.
All right.
If I may, I know the mayor has stepped out. I just want to address one thing that he had asked me to address. And it's relating to the dog shelter. The dog shelter, the clerk, the city treasurer, nor I, and the city records did not have a copy of the instrument, the document, the paperwork that was signed by Kevin Smith, Mayor Smith. And Mayor Smith engaged in discussions with Horizon structures relating to the dog kennels. I was provided with a document by the city clerk, a copy of the instruments that the mayor signed and the details of it. Of particular note, this was never approved by the city council, never presented to the city council. The contract was not a financing contract. I will read the first paragraph to you all and some of the other paragraphs just so you understand what Mayor Smith did as relating to it and why they came and got the kennels. What the contract requires in the very first paragraph, the minimum part of $1,000 required at the time the bill was ordered, depending on its size. The customer may be required to pay additional monies prior to delivery. Deposit may be paid by credit card or customer's Visa or MasterCard. All coops, kennels, or outdoor living products under $10,000 get paid in full at the time of order. All modular buildings require 35% deposit at the time of order, 55% prior to delivery building, and the remaining balance of 10% is due upon completion on site. And so this was a payment on site. When it got here, it was supposed to be paid 100%. It's my understanding that the city clerk was asked to send the Bissell money to this outfit, the Horizon Structures, $50,000, left a balance of $66,383, which was due upon arrival. And was due upon arrival, and the city treasurer did not approve the purchase requisition. The contract was not sent to me, and there's no line item, but Mayor Smith has done a purchase order for himself, requested by Mayor Smith, approved by Mayor Smith, signed October 20th, 22, for $116,383. And at the time a draft was sent, the mayor signed this agreement November 8th, 2022, and the kennels were delivered. They were supposed to be paid in full at that time. They were not paid. Now, the reason why I place so much emphasis all the time about these contracts, and I need to see them and read them, cities in the state of Arkansas should not agree to be sued in some other state or to be bound by some other state's laws. This agreement, which Mayor Smith signed, said this agreement shall not be amended, self-written instrument signed by both parties. If any portion of this agreement is declared to be unenforceable, invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the remainder of the agreement shall remain full force and effect. This agreement shall never contain, as this would never contain the portion. In the view there's a dispute, that the parties is agreed, the dispute shall be referred to arbitration in accordance to the United States Arbitration Mediation Rules of Arbitration. The arbitrator's decision shall be found on judgment. The agreement and all controversies shall be governed by and construed in accordance with the laws of Pennsylvania. Without regard to its conflicts of laws, the customer agrees that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and specifically Lancaster County of Pennsylvania, shall be the sole venue for any litigation as a result of any disputes or disagreement. Further, at the last paragraph, we can give you all a copy of all this. The customer agrees that if payment of the invoice in full is more than 30 days past due, Horizons reserves the right to take full ownership of the building, including the right to enter the property and remove the building and return it to Horizons in the event that there's no return of the principal, and there will be no return of the principal, and the customer thereby releases any claims of ownership of the above structure. Horizons is granted the right to resell, reuse, and dispose of the building as it sees fit. That's the agreement that the mayor signed. It was not reviewed by me. The city paid $50,000. It's $50,000. It's forfeited. If we want to sue them, we have to go to Pennsylvania to sue them and agree to arbitration. This is why when we go through the purchase orders, I always ask, I need to see a contract. If we as a city should not agree to any agreement that we have to go to some other state and sue somebody. And so that's where we are. They have the $50,000. The city, the mayor agreed. The mayor didn't have the actual authority to make the agreement. City council never approved it. The city treasurer never signed off on the purchase order requisition. I never signed off on the contract. But the problem that we have is he had the apparent authority backed up with a $50,000 check. He signed the agreement and sent $50,000, which is Biscuit Foundation money. And if we won't do anything about it, you have to hire a lawyer in Pennsylvania and go to arbitration to try to dispute this. But in this agreement, it says that we lose the $50,000 and the property. They have the right to enter our property and take it back. But the $66,000 was due immediately back in November of 2022.
So what happens to the grant portion, the portion that we paid the grant?
I have not spoken to the Bissell Foundation about the portion. The mayor has spoken with them, with her in particular, but I have not spoken to the Bissell Foundation. But as it relates to rises, if we want to do anything, we have to go to Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, and deal with it up there. That's why I insist every time I need to see a contract.
So how much did they ask?
50,000.
And that was from the.
Yes.
Okay.
When they came and delivered it, Mayor Smith should have had a check for $66,000, hadn't them at that moment.
I thought Ms. Sandy was holding that check, because remember when we passed a release at 50 while we were on the council.
Yes, that was paid this year, the 50. I think he's saying that it was due before this council took over.
Okay.
Right. So we paid the 50. But my thinking on Bissell is that the grant, as I understood it from the council meeting, was to match the city in animal control, not to match the city in a building.
Right.
So in terms of meeting the grant requirements, we spent more than $50,000 in animal control this year. So I think we matched that. She may not be inclined to giving it more, but we matched it.
Now, Ms. Rams is here, she can speak for herself, but until we actually got these documents, there's no purchase order. We've asked the treasurer and the clerk about the purchase order. They didn't have a copy of that purchase order. Is that accurate, Mr. Turner?
That we didn't get this contract of the purchase order until 2 days after they had picked up the kennel, and I had to call up there to see what was going on, told them we didn't have anything, and that came in the mail. So we didn't have it here on site until after the kennel had been picked up.
Right.
And they didn't communicate with you before they came either.
No, didn't know anything about it until they were at the landfill to go in, load it up on their truck and leave. We weren't served any kind of a notice or anything.
That's for purchase order process, just so you all know. When the department head wants to make any purchase, and the mayor's aware of this, they must do a purchase order. It goes to the city, it goes to the purchase order person, goes to the city treasurer. So the treasurer has to say that, hey, we have the funds to do this. That's part of the process. And that's why I asked the city treasurer, had he seen that before? And it's my understanding, if I'm incorrect, just correct me now, Mr. Treasurer. Have you ever seen that before we've received this?
No.
And so in our official records, when I asked the city treasurer about it, he was saying, I haven't seen it. When I asked city clerk about it, she said, I hadn't seen it. And we may have made the payment this year for $50,000, but 100% was due last year. And I don't think that they would advise to pay the $50,000 had they known all this, because we didn't have the contract, we didn't have anything. The stuff was on site, the concrete was poured, it was there. Because the mayor did all this in the last 2 weeks of last year. When I say did all this, he did the concrete, had the kennels bound to the concrete and et cetera in the last part of December.
Separately, the people at the landfill entered into what I call a marriage of convenience. They didn't want the shelter out there. And so they've submitted, and I'll get it to you, a regulation from the Department of Environmental Quality that says it shouldn't be out there no way. That you shouldn't have an animal shelter in your landfill.
All right, purchase sales generated. Are they all paid?
How, what now?
All right, purchase sales.
They're all paper.
Yes, they should be.
That's the first problem. We need to go to electronic system. They need to go through a system where somebody's approving and stuff. And that stuff doesn't even print out until somebody's approved it.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody should be able to arbitrarily just generate their own purchase order.
They got to purchase all the books generated by Greens Printing or somebody that the purchase order clerk holds on to. And people go to her office and fill them out, is my understanding, and submit the receipts or invoices or what have you to go along with them.
Yeah, but if you had the paperwork and you just held on to it for however long, then you decide to fill it out, you could just fill out your own purchase order and go shopping.
There's potential for that.
Up there.
Yeah.
But that's all I have on the kennels.
Just quick question. So in the event that the shelter is gone, we still have, as I understand, I'm sure everybody else knows as well, you know, I'm getting calls that we have dogs at residences and at places, at the vet and all of that. What is our animal control person going to do with dogs that are being picked up at this moment? What are we going to do about that?
I had a conversation with our animal control officer in the morning. Because we need to discuss that with her. Because we're getting calls that our animal controllers got involved picking a dog. Not a Helena-West. Yeah, we're just getting called by animal control. We'll deal with that. But Ms. Miller, we gonna, I'm gonna let you all know. I'm working on it.
Ms. Miller, we're trying to find our way through this thicket. And certainly there's been discussions about setting up another kennel or something of that sort. And until the city council decides in writing in terms of your policy, are we gonna have an animal rescue or animal control? We're gonna always be in flux. Because I think our animal control officer sees herself and all of her friends see her as an animal rescue officer who should rescue these animals from these bad people in Helena and take them to the good people in Ohio and Virginia and all these other places at the expense of
the city. Sometimes
cities, sometimes other people. But until we get a policy from the council as to what we're gonna do, control or rescue, right, or a mix of them, then we're kind of gonna always be in flux. Because, you know, there's this thing about every time somebody has a litter of puppies, they want to go and get them and say that this person is a bad person for having a litter of puppies. They should have had their animal spayed or neutered and all this other stuff. And I understand the virtue of spaying and neutering. I understand that. But all of this is not the city's responsibility. Animal control is actually, if we were thinking in terms of a college class, animal control is an elective. You graduate whether you take it or not. You don't have to have animal control just because you city government. There's no law requiring that. There are people who say it is, but they haven't shown me a statute that requires you to have, you gotta have a police department. You gotta have animal control. Mr. Murdoch.
But we are gonna have animal control. We gonna deal with it. And maybe I flew off the handle, but we have a conversation about what's going on in animal control and with animal control. And Ms. Miller, if you and Mr. Miller or anybody, Ms. Harris have any concerns about it or where we should go, I'm interested in that. If you all have a plan, we got one proposal that I'm gonna deal with this week, but we got a plan. We got a plan. We have a plan. That's for sure. And I promise you, Ms. Miller, it's gonna be a good plan. It's gonna be a good plan, Ms. Harris. It's gonna be one of the plans that you're proud of. Mr. Murdoch, I'm sorry for the.
And they continue their speech until midnight. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council. We don't have anything necessarily new to report. Now, I noticed on the agenda, there are a few items relative to leak reports and repairs. An item relative to the consent administrative order status, staff level needs, water and sewer rate study, public hearing requests. Let me try to address each of these very quickly. We are in a pretty good state currently with regards to our leaks on the east side and the west side. We've got probably a half a dozen pretty major leaks over on the west side. We're looking pretty good here in Helena currently. Both of the plants are operating well. The Missouri Street well over here, we had some motor electrical issues. We've been having some issues with up at the north tank in West Sullivan, and we had a little bit of an issue with some cavitation in the well number 9. It was kind of losing prime, and some of that is a result of our needing to run the well continuously. When you run a well continuously, you don't give it a time to recover. Ideally, you would be able to alternate wells and not, run one 24 hours constantly without any relief. But we know that that's occurring, and with the leak situation kind of subsiding, hopefully we'll be able to kind of rest at least that one well and kind of run the wells in rotation. The consent administrative order, we have a schedule of sorts. We were supposed to, or we are supposed to respond to ADEQ with regards to an overall schedule and acceptance of their proposed consent administrative order, or make modifications. Met with the engineers on last Thursday. Charquette was here. We kind of talked through the schedule, and we talked about the things that we have done already in advance of the order. And we look forward to putting that report forward to ADEQ, hopefully the end of this week. We should have a draft for the mayor and the city attorney to review. Still looking for a definitive report on the fine situation, the tentative fine that ADEQ was proposing, and we owed some fees, and I never did get a definitive report as to whether or not those fees had been paid, and hopefully we can get together and
They were paid.
okay, good to hear that. We're still needing additional staff at the water department. We're short-staffed currently by anywhere from 4 to 6 people. Our people work hard. They're overworked and underpaid, but we don't have a choice. We are where we are, and then we all are putting in excessive hours in order to try to keep the operation going. So we would employ you certainly, as Chief Bell had kind of alluded to. We need something to attract people. Yeah, we really appreciate you going the extra mile and raising that minimum that we have currently so that we can attract some more people. So far, we've attracted 2 more people, but we're still short, still short people. We're still searching, going through Ms. Coke. She's issuing us,
applications as they come through. But there are very few, if all at all, that have relevant utility experience, and we need people that have utility experience. That would be very helpful. Funding. We are feverishly going through all of the funding mechanisms that are available to us. Rural development, East Arkansas Planning Development, Natural Resources, the Delta Regional Authority. There will be very shortly a number of resolutions that will be presented to you, and the city attorney will obviously prepare those. But there are a number of different resolutions that you will need to pass relative to funding, particularly with rural development. There will ultimately be a resolution that you will need to pass relative to ADEQ and the administrative order. And I'm sure the city attorney will review that with you all in short order. We're studying. There is no cocktail shot for where we are. It will be a long process of recovery, and I want to continue to reiterate. It's taken 20 years for the system to get to where it is, and it's not going to recover in 4 or 5 years. 4 to 5 years. Not going to recover that fast. There's a planning process, then there's an actual construction process. So people that think that, well, gee, he ought to have an instant fix. Well, there is no instant fix. There is no instant fix for where we are. It will be a long process. And as we continue to try to keep Band-Aids on the system, continue to fix leaks and patch plants, that will be our plight until we're able to implement a more permanent system fix. Y'all don't be mad at me. I'm just a messenger. Yeah, but but there is light at the end of the tunnel. Things are looking up on some fronts. The collection system is improving. We do have a major proposition of all of the lift stations are going to have to be cleaned out. That's going to be a major ordeal because they don't work because they've never been cleaned ever. Yeah, ever. They have never been cleaned. So each of the 14 lift stations are going to have to be vacuum cleaned so that they pump. They were never designed to pump solids. They were designed to pump liquids. So over the years of sludge buildup and sediment, sand and everything else that gets into the station settle to the bottom. And so now the pumps are sitting on top of solids trying to pump solids. They weren't designed to do that. So all of that material is going to have to be removed before we have fully functional lift stations. But that's out on the radar so that we know that that's down the pike, and we whatever we need to do to bite the bullet, we have to come up with the resources to get it done. And I will certainly be putting forth that information to the mayor and to the chief of staff, as that becomes imminent, and it is getting real close to imminent. We got to get it done. My goal for the year was to be rid of all of these bypass pumps. So I think we're down to 3 now. But we get rid of them. We got to get the stations clean. Got to get them clean. That's all I've got. If anybody got any questions, I'll be.
Yeah. East Arkansas Planning Development.
I reference that.
Okay.
Yeah, I reference that. We'll have a resolution that will have to be.
If we decide to get these bypass pumps, these pumps, these lift stations cleaned out, how would that look?
Well, what it's going to require is a jet vac to vacuum the material out, because you can't shovel it out. The compartments are compartmentalized. You know, there's a wet well and there's a dry well. It's confined space, and actually a physical body has to get in the pit and shovel it over to where the vacuum machine can vacuum it out. It's very labor intensive, very dangerous. Air monitoring and confined space concerns. But it's got to be done. There's no choice.
What the cost of that might be? What the cost could cost?
Well, the cost is not that prohibitive. I think we ought to be able to get all of them done for probably hopefully less than $10,000 a piece. So.
And Mr. Brown, we me, you, and the chief of staff and the city attorney met with the governor. Can you relate to the bottom of some of the things she asked us to do before she could help us get some of our issues resolved? Okay. Can you explain to the body?
I didn't hear you real well.
When we met with the governor, some of the things she asked us to do.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, one of the things that she asked to do is she does not want to fund every small village and hamlet in the Delta. Her concept is a regional facility that's going to service all of these small communities. Now, and we were advocating that since West Helena is the largest populated area in the county, that we ought to be the epicenter for that future development. Now, that future development, if it's a centralized or regional water treatment facility, at a cost of someplace between $35 and $40 million, to do a system that is going to be regional in concept. That's what she's looking for. The engineers are working right now on that preliminary number, and hopefully, that'll be palatable to her. And all of the, we've met with the senator, Bozeman's staff, as well as with the governor herself. They seem to be willing. We'll see on how the rubber meets the road once they, see the numbers. I don't think the numbers are going to change.
Well, I guess you talked about the engineer who are working on something. Could you describe in a little more detail for the council and the public what you're describing, what you're discussing?
Well, we're talking about a regional water treatment and distribution facility. We've got remnants of a distribution system, but we're talking about a system that's going to be able to service the entire county. Barton, Lexa, Elaine,
Lakeview,
all of the little villages and hamlets to the south, to the west, maybe as far as Marvel, or some little hamlets that are beyond Marvel. So that's her concept. We're not the only ones that, Lake Village, we're not the only ones that have issues systemically. They have obviously much smaller systems, but they have issues. In the perfect world, you got one system that has the capacity to deal with the problem globally. That's her concept.
In the meeting also, did you discuss your current personnel and pay scales for the current personnel?
Well, yeah, again, we're not the only ones that have a cold. Everybody else got cold. Some of them have pneumonia. It's the pay scales or rates for utility workers throughout the state, are the same. And people have had this failed concept of being able to maintain very complex systems as things have evolved with these minimal wages, and that's just not a workable situation. It's not sustainable. And I think we've witnessed that, and they witnessed that in other places around the state. We've got to have a pay scale that will attract and retain, competent people.
Right. One thing she said in particular, just to piggyback on that, when the governor was meeting with all of us, she was saying that specifically that the pay scale for the water utility is too low. And that we need to address that issue going through it to attract competent staff.
Yeah.
When we say competent, we mean people who would have all the necessary license or the experience and et cetera.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things she was emphasizing to the mayor and Mr. Murdoch as she was talking to all of those assembled in the room. And addressing the leaks and et cetera. I think that the body has addressed the leaks the utility has addressed the leaks in a major way, but we're still dealing with leaks. I invite any comments from the mayor, or chief of staff, or Mr. Murdoch relating to the meeting with the governor.
And she also wanted us to have an engineering report ready for her to see what the soul of the issue is with the water. She wants that proposal so she can know definitely what she can do for the city of Helena-West. She wants a detail. She wants the report, the engineer's report. So once she gets that and she can see how much it's going to cost, she's going to work with us on that. So she before she commits, she didn't want to commit to a short-term fix. She wants to know what the major issues are, and once she get a report on that, then she'll help us with that. The governor has been very good on reaching out to me. We text on a regular basis on what I need help with, what the water department needs help with. She's very concerned about the area. I saw her last Tuesday. We saw her last Tuesday, and she reached out and said, I'm still waiting on you to let me know what you need. And she's steady saying Helen is a part of her that she wants to help. But she wants to really help us with the water issue and a lot of issues that she's willing to help us with. We just have to show her where we're going with it and how we're using the finances that we have to take care of the issue. But she's very concerned about health. So she made me feel like that, that she's a part of it. Once we get the engineering report and what we need, we'll submit it to her and we'll see where we go from there.
Okay. Yep, absolutely. The other component, it's kind of how many legs are on the stool. It's going to be incumbent upon us to be able to develop the human resources that are necessary to maintain a functional system. And if we had a brand new system that fell out the sky, would we be able to maintain it? And we have to engage and employ our educational resources, if it's the high school vocational, if it's the PC, every resource that's available to assist us in training staff to be able to properly operate a system. So that's a challenge for all of us. We got to have the institutional knowledge, which is lacking now. Everybody, there's a few people that knows where the bodies are, and that's it. So those resources that knew where everything was and how everything worked are no longer here. And that's an issue. So as the system hadn't changed. So it's kind of the degradation of the system as a result of not having the institutional knowledge there and not having the staff that's motivated, either financial or otherwise, to do the things that need to be done, and then having them in adequate supply. But we have to continue on with what we got. And we made that statement to everybody. We're not sitting kind of on a stump, twiddling our thumbs, doing nothing. We're doing whatever we can with the resources that we have available to us.
I'm hearing a kind of a repetitive theme about resources, manpower, qualifications, pay scale. About 60+ days ago, we discovered that the water utility here has been losing money for a number of years.
Mhm.
Can you tell us how far underwater, no pun intended, our water utility is on a monthly basis, so that we know what it takes to get out of the hole? And I know that I know we have a lot of variables at this point. I know we have a lot of variables at this point. We've had some repairs, but I'm saying just in operations, how far underwater are we on a monthly basis?
Well, I'm gonna have to defer that to the treasurer. Because those numbers are it's something that I'm not really privy to on a monthly basis. I look at what the revenues are. I get a monthly deposit statement, but I do not get routine income and expense reports that I would like to have.
How many residential and commercial accounts do we have?
Well, there's 35 accounts in West Helena. There's 1,500 or so in Helena.
I mean, I guess where I'm going is water revenue only comes from customers, right?
Only customers that the utility has to support itself on fees generated from water and sewer.
So we should be able to, given within a certain range, we know how many customers we have on a monthly basis, residential and commercial. And we ought to be able to sit here and do that calculation right here at the table, right?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the revenue is based upon usage.
I know it's based on usage, but I'm saying at least we ought to be able to just, fundamentally know some people use more water than others.
Right.
But it's still based on the number of accounts that we have one way or another. Here's my issue. This is like, for me, it seems like a nuts and bolts calculation.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what the treasurer says, we know how many accounts we have. And we ought to know how much we pay in payroll. We ought to know how much we pay in regular expenses on a monthly basis.
Right.
And it seems like for years, nobody did the math. It's like nobody's been doing the math. And if the most recent emergency hadn't come to light, we probably wouldn't even know it today, that the water utility was losing money at the level that it was losing money. I guess at this point, I don't understand why, because I've been asking this question since I found out. What's the math? How many accounts do we have? How much do we take in each month? I don't need the treasurer for that. You got those records internally. Can we find out how much we take in on a monthly basis and how much we spend in regular expenses on a monthly basis? The regular ones. I'm talking about the utility bills, whatever you have to pay to operate, not the special expenses. Why can't we do that math and find out where we are on a monthly basis in the water utility? Am I out to sea on that issue? Am I missing an entire point on it?
No. I mean, you're on point. Well, that information ought to be available. And I have kind of requested the ability to do that. That's information that I'm accustomed to having. I don't have it.
There's not. The people sitting over there can get this information. It's not complicated.
Mr. Esther, I've been providing that information for the last few months. I can get you this year revenues and expenditures for each month.
I hear all this backdoor talk about why we don't know these numbers, and that's not true. I'm not talking to you.
I mean, I understand what
I
you're
can
saying.
walk over to the water department and say, how many accounts do we have?
Mhm.
I can do some rough math. I can walk over to the water department and say, what do we spend in monthly expenses? And do some rough math. It might not be precise. But clearly our financial reports, which financial reports only represent what went into our system. It was input into the system. It leaves out all the stuff that we couldn't pay. for example. But we can get the raw numbers pretty easy. And I don't see what I've been asking. I said, Mr. Miller asked for the same. We asked for some numbers some months ago. I made the statement. I didn't say we didn't ask. We want the numbers. But this is what I'm talking about. What are the raw numbers about how many accounts we have? And how much money we're bringing in? Because we're losing money at an extraordinary clip. And the water department is taking out the whole city. And for years, nobody has done this bad. And it's simple.
Well, the math that we have done, that we're keenly aware of, is that we're not collecting an adequate amount in revenue to cover what our fixed expenses are.
Exactly.
That's simple math.
That's clear. If we don't turn over sanitation fees, it's clear we don't make enough. It's clear we don't make enough.
Yeah, but we're not talking sanitation. We're not collecting enough money for water and wastewater to cover the cost of running a water and wastewater
But that's why the
operation.
sanitation fee is not being turned over to the city. That's what I'm saying. The reason why the sanitation fees are not going to the city general is because the water utility doesn't make enough in water and wastewater, like you said.
Mhm.
But nobody has put pen to paper to figure out what that number is. Nobody has done that. And I cannot understand why.
Well, we're at the beginning of a budgeting cycle right now. I'm in the process of developing a budget, and we'll have, probably we'll have numbers that you'll be interested in. And we will know going forward what our projected expenses are to operate, and we will have projections of what our revenues are based upon our customer base and based upon our current rate schedules.
What's that?
Now, the other part of that is, we know that the sewer rates are terribly inadequate. The water rate study that was done, I guess, a couple of years ago, dealt with water rates, did not deal with sewer. So the sewer rates are woefully low. So
I know after we had those, I guess you call it the water crisis, a lot of people's bills went up substantially, double, triple. What was the cause of the increase?
I'm not privy to that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I look at, in my prior engagement, I did a rate study of everybody in the Delta, West Memphis, Wynn, Mariana, Brinkley, Helena, Stuttgart. The rates here, I think the base rate is around $28 a month. That's the base rate for water customers here, the base rate. Well, by comparison, the base rates in Wynn are like $90 a month. I live in Mariana, my base rate is about $60 a month. You understand? You see the difference? Now, I'll look at my bill. I've got a building that nobody's occupying, but if I look at my basic service availability charge and my garbage collection charge, they're $40-some. And I didn't even turn the spigot off. I didn't flush a stool. That doesn't exist here. So the rate structure has to be addressed. We're not going to, particularly when we get into dealing with a funding operation with natural resources, they're going to look at our rates and they're going to tell us that our rates need to be adjusted. We need to adjust our rates. If we get into a bond issue, we will be told that we have to have a rate adjustment in order to do debt service even on a bond.
And that was one of the things the governor did ask. Have we had a rate study? She wanted us to have a rate. It's the steps that she wanted us to do. But she would look at anything. She wanted a rate study done and she wanted the engineer's report. But Mr. Murdock, those things that Mr. Etcherly are asking for, can we get those to him?
Well, I mean, those are things that the treasurer staff have to provide, you know. Now historically, I had my own bookkeeper in my office. And I give you everything that you're asking. I don't have that here. I don't have a person that can go into the system and pull, that's recording all of the income and expenses. I don't have that here. I have to rely on somebody else to give me the numbers.
That's not what I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking. You can print out your monthly expenses. You can do that.
I can't pull out no, I can't.
He doesn't have the accounting.
If you,
I know that's what he's, I know that's what he's answering.
He can get it.
He's not answering your question. That's what I'm getting at. He's been a little, yeah.
For the years that I've been here, we've off and on, we asked, how many water accounts do you have?
About 5.
When James Valley was mayor, he used to tell us, we got this many water accounts, this many residential, this many commercial.
Mhm.
So I know that people know. And once we know, we don't know that this person uses this much or this person uses this much, but we can average it out. Because a rate study means nothing if you don't know what your target is. You don't know how far you need to raise it. So first of all, where are we actually at this point? How much are we actually losing on a monthly basis in the water utility? Once we know that, then yeah, rate study tells us how much we need. But we don't even know what we need, right?
Well, part of Mr. Essler, I would say one issue that I've noticed. So I do get the information. I get information on the number of meters and all that kind of stuff. I got them spreadsheets and blah, blah, blah. One of the issues that I see personally is that we're kind of inefficient in collections. I can tell you how much money we build, but we don't collect what we build. So that gap right there is one issue. So our collections need to pick up a little bit. Because we, you know, when people don't pay, that hurts, and especially when you don't have.
But you can still do an average of your revenue. You can still do it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that anybody has said that changes my mind, and we cannot figure out what our revenue is.
I can tell you what the revenue is. What we collect, what we actually collect. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's based on a customer base.
So
Right.
meter wise.
Well, yeah, you got a customer base and then you got an average collect. From that, we can draw an average. Some people don't pay, some people get cut off,
Yeah.
some people leave, they never come back.
Mhm.
Some people move, they open new accounts, but we can take our average customer base and figure out what our average revenue is. Yeah. I don't think what I'm asking is complicated. I just don't think it is.
Well, here's the basic thing. Regardless of how it's provided, city treasurer has some information, the mayor's office has some information, Ms. Murdock has some information. Instead of us going back and forth pointing fingers, let's just get the report so the council can be informed.
I don't want the report. The report has said we are good for years.
I'm not talking about that. Mr. Etler, you didn't let me finish. You didn't let me finish. What I'm saying, you read the report that you're asking for.
Asking for something specific.
And that's what I'm trying to address. I said, instead of everybody going back and forth who's responsible, just.
I didn't say whose responsibility it is. I said it's over there.
I got you. But what I'm saying to you is something simple. I'm saying to everybody, get the information. That's all we're asking. We can have it for the next council meeting. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Mayor, all three of y'all work together and let's get the information to the city council, period.
We'll have it by the 19th.
That's all I'm saying. Just be responsive to what you're asking.
I will get that to Mr. Essler by the 6th. By 12 o'clock.
That's all I'm saying. Whatever information council wants, so they can make an informed decision, let's get it to them.
Just let me know exactly what to get to you tomorrow.
You want to make the motion? Go ahead.
Yeah. My suggestion would be, if you need it, I mean, like I've always said before, sometimes you have to get things you can't afford. The monthly payment isn't a lot. My suggestion would be to get it and try to, if you need it, if you say you need it, and it seems reasonable, more than reasonable, actually.
We don't always get it all, no, it comes in maybe split payment. 28.75, I think.
All right.
But I'm good on that.
We had been getting it for years now. Thank you, Mr. Murdoch.
All right, thank you.
We ran over our time, so we're gonna table everything else.
The one thing.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the articulated truck that we found for $140,000. They came back today with an email with finances at $2,899 per month. Well, I want, I guess, to inform you, we'll come back on the 15th. We'll try to send Bruce down there to check it out before we commit to trying to purchase it. And then if he thinks it's okay, then you all can approve it if you desire. That's where we are. We just got that this afternoon, late now.
We'll table everything else. Ms. St. Clement? A second.